And good morning, welcome back. It's another day. We have a lot to do, but I am hoping that by the end of today, or within the next couple hours, we have this thing rumbling, making some sound, doing exactly what I need it to do. Let's go ahead and get started and grab the water pump. All right, things are looking good. Let's go ahead and proceed. We'll get the water pump on so we can move on to greener pastures. The water pump is not as simple as you see. It actually has the water neck conflicting with the turbo piping, so I have to slowly work it in here without jamming anything up. So, without further ado, watch me struggle. Watch me drop the gaskets I just put on. All right, 1 second. Getting there. Yeah, I was getting there. Let's get this one started, and then we can get that gasket back that we dropped. There we go. Sweet. That's gonna be just fine. Grab the gasket, make sure it's clean, good enough. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and get these things on here and then we'll tighten them down. Good. All right. All right, so with the water pump on, let's get the belt on real quick. It's a pretty quick process, so while we're here, let's just get it over with. Pretty sure it goes. Sometimes you got to remember the sequence of which it goes, and I'm pretty sure this is how it goes. Make sure. All right, so the belt is on. Let's go ahead and get this water coolant temperature sensor on the side, and then we're going to move on to valve lash. Actually, no, we'll do the steam kit first. So let me grab that. So I'm going to put the coolant temperature sensor in. It is a coolant temperature sensor after all, so make sure you put some thread sealant on the threads. And then let's get this out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and thread it in. This is just a sensor, it's not rocket science. However, this sensor is critical. If you're doing a swap and you're like, oh, it's running like crap and your coolant temperature sensor is unplugged, make sure that's done correctly. All right, let me go ahead and get the steam kit. We'll put that on and then we'll proceed. All right, here's an LS1 steam kit. You could tell because of the way it is. So I want to make sure that these clip on here correctly so they don't get pinched underneath. So I'm going to clip this. Let's go around this. There we go. Okay, perfect. Those are all four corners. You can actually buy aftermarket braided ones. Some of the truck ones are just in the front with caps in the back. There is a benefit to doing all four corners with steam. Look it up. Not going to go over that right now. I don't want to over torque this, so I'm going to take it easy. Okay. Before I drop the intake on, there's a ground strap on both sides of the heads for pretty much every single aftermarket harness system. So on this side, here's my ground strap on this side. Sorry, it's hard to get to, so I'm going to tighten it down. If you don't ground to your head and you're having misfire issues, please check your grounds. Each one controls the grounding for the coil packs, as well as, let's see here, here's another ground. But each one controls the grounding for the coil packs and for the injectors on each bank. So if you're sounding like you're running on half cylinders, then you probably don't have your ground straps on. That's pretty simple stuff for LS swaps. So just remember that, and you should be gravy. I'm going to tighten this down real quick. I'll get the other head. So I'm going to get this harness out of the way, make sure that I have everything accessible. Okay, good. Injectors. And here's the ground strap down here. Let me get this back up here. All right, so I'm going to grab a bolt, ground this off, and then we'll move on. Okay, now it's time to put the intake on. What I got to do is there's a couple vacuum ports back here. One is for the brake booster. One is for the turbo vacuum, like for the gauge. And then one is for the blow-off valve. Well, that's in the front. And then there's also one more. Where is it? Here it is for the map sensor. So get all three of those on real quick. This map sensor's seen better days, so we'll swap that out. So simple enough. These are dry intakes. This is, again, not rocket science. Set it on, and we'll torque it down. So on intakes, doesn't matter what intake you do, you always start in the center and do a pattern out. I'm just going to bring them down, and then I'll torque them. All right, like I said, I'm going to get a torque wrench now. I'm going to torque these all down, but in the meantime, before I torque them, I'm going to start putting some other stuff on, and we'll go from there. Okay, now that we have the intake portion all buttoned up, I'm going to get to valve lash and how we set the valve lash after we have the push rod measurement that we have done. So here, I actually already installed the push rods, which are a 5/16 or 080 if you like the metric system, thick push rod, and it's 7.550. So my measurement, if you recall, came out to a 7.546 on an average for all of the measurements. So within 0.005 on these Johnson lifters is exactly what we need. So I'm going to bring you in here and show you exactly what's next. All right, so after you set all the push rods in, make sure that you have them on the cup of the lifter, or when you set everything down, you could bend some push rods. So be very careful when you do that process. Then, like I said before, go ahead and set the rocker stand on gently, and then you could just bring them down a little bit. Okay, so once you get the stands on the actual motor with the push rods in the cups, again, make sure they're in the cups correctly. Then you want to find exhaust open, intake close. Now, I want to make sure that things rotate and there's no issues. So go ahead and turn the harmonic balancer. Everything seems to be fine. I'm not finding any binding. Good. Now, I want to adjust these two first. And so what you do is exhaust open, intake close. That's how you do it. So when the exhaust opens, you adjust the intake. As the intake closes, you adjust the exhaust. So this is actually the exhaust valve here, and the intake is open right now. So I'm going to hold my finger on the top of the push rod, and as it starts to go back down, boom, I can adjust the exhaust side. So I'm going to take it down slowly. Now, I went too far, so I'm going to back it off a hair. We'll get the torque wrench. Set my torque wrench to 22 because everything on an LS is 22 foot-pounds, it seems like. So then you go ahead and you torque the exhaust side to 22 foot-pounds. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over until the exhaust starts to open. There it is. Exhaust is opening. Torque this one to 22. Okay. Now that I've done those, I'm just going to zip through all of them and make sure that every single one of these is set to 22, and then we'll go to the other side. side is done, and all you're doing is when you have this on the base circle, so the cam on the base circle, push rod's on that base circle, I showed this earlier, you're torquing it to 22 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and move on to the other side and get it done. Okay, and with that done, I'm going to go ahead and button everything back up, and I'm just going to go ahead and speed right through it. Okay, we have the car back in the air, and while we're up here, we'll just change the oil filter, get the oil line set up. I like these Wix filters, they're pretty good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the other one full of oil. So make sure you fill it with oil, make sure you lubricate the O-ring. Tighten it on. You over torque it, you're gonna have a heck of a time getting it off. You under torque it, it falls off rattling, and you blow your motor. So just be careful. Now this is the oil feed for the turbo. Just gonna tighten it on. There we go. Now we're gonna get over here. This is the oil pressure sensor, or the sending unit, the gauge. I replaced this in the last couple of videos ago. And again, I don't want to over torque it and break the stud. That's a very common thing that people do. Be careful torquing these. Okay, pretty tight. We're gonna move on. All right, so I quickly buttoned this thing back up, and I'm gonna go ahead and top this thing off with some Royal Purple 1030 oil. This motor's already been broken in. We're just gonna get the lifters nice and lubricated with the good oil. Yep, there we go. Drink up, little guy. Here you go. Have a little drink. Make yourself happy. No more lifter tick. Lots of oil pressures. Lots of oil pressures. All right. So I'm going to go get some more antifreeze, and then I'll be ready with the funnel so that we can burp the system, and we're going to fire this sucker up. So let me go get that antifreeze and let's begin. I have not finished the interior yet, but I at least got it so we can go down the road and just see how it runs. All right, so that's it for this one. We took it for a nice cruise. It pulls hard. I mean, I'm telling you, it pulls hard. So we're gonna go ahead and get the carbon interior in, so stay tuned for that video. And then we're gonna take it for that cruise I keep mentioning. So I wanna make sure it's done. I want this thing complete before I bother driving it on a long cruise, and that's why we're gonna go ahead and do that video. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please like the videos. Any support I can get is very helpful. We got a lot of awesome cars that we're gonna be building here. So please subscribe to my videos, help support me. So thank you for watching.